Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. Very compelling topic. What I'm going to review today is really these 4 items. First of all, understand what's happening in the AI market. I know this conference has had a lot of technical sessions. I'm going to go to the high level and kind of try to give you a sense of what's happening in the big tech market, what are they're considering, what are their concerns. Then we're going to touch upon what AI is coming in the next fiscal so that you know what's coming. I'm actually going to give you some updates from Ignite, which is Microsoft's event that happened 24 hours ago. So you're one of the first audiences in the world, apart from the audience in Chicago that watched it. I'm going to touch upon how Microsoft sees itself in the market, and then talk about some opportunities. I hope that during this session, I can cater to all the variant roles that you have here and give you something that really changes your future and influences your decision making. So to start with, what we're used to in the current AI market dynamics is you want to sell something, you say AI, they buy it, okay? But you know, we see this in the market. When I was a year ago here, I said, if you look at what's coming, some software domains are the first ones that are going to be hit. And indeed, if we look at what's happening in Wall Street, you see that Adobe was perceived as lagging behind on AI. Boom, their stock dropped. You see DocuSign, which is a piece of software that does e-signature for documents. I think there are a lot of people in the room that can code that in one day. As soon as they said they're behind on AI, boom, we see their stock dropping, and immediately they go and do a fire acquisition. They get a checkout for $165 million and buy a startup that says, we do e-signature in AI, so that the analyst in Wall Street is happy. And other companies, big companies like Salesforce, Workday, huge software companies, their multipliers in Wall Street were going down as they were perceived as being behind in AI. So Wall Street is punishing whoever is not thinking forward on AI, and that's something that we need to understand in the market. If you look at IBM, IBM says, I'm going to fire 7,000 people and replace them with AI. Boom, the stock goes up to an all-time high. Apple says, I'm going to add AI to my products. Boom, the stock goes up. And of course, the queen, Nvidia, I don't know if you've seen the reports from yesterday, their net profits rose by more than 100%. This graph was taken before, so just imagine what's happening. Obviously, Nvidia is perceived as selling us shovels while we are digging the gold. But Nvidia is led by a CEO who doesn't sleep at night. These are his words. He's very concerned about the future, and I'll explain why. But he's taking very proactive measures to make sure that he is strong also in the future. And speaking of that, he's going up the tech stack. So we all know them as the provider of GPUs, but if you look at Nvidia today, they're going up the stack. So they bought DSC for $300 million. That improves their model performance. So they're a model company, and they're focusing on performance. They bought Run AI. Run AI could have been the VMware of the AI time. Now Nvidia has it, and Nvidia is now becoming the VMware, the hypervisor, if you will, if we go back 20 years, to virtualize software on top of GPUs. So Run AI enables that. $700 million acquisition. They bought both of them in 1 week. They spent $1 billion like that just to go up the tech stack and make sure that they're not only confined to the GPU space, and now they're becoming a very strong company. Now, who is buying all these GPUs from Nvidia? So we have this graph here that shows us crazy numbers from Microsoft and Meta, Facebook, okay? And we have Google and Amazon behind. So it makes sense, right? But let's remember this graph. We see Microsoft 3 times, Google 3 times, Amazon. But what is happening in Meta? We all know about the other players. And the answer came this year. Meta brought up, last summer, Llama 3.1. Now we're already at Llama 3.2. But this was the first time that we had an open source model compete head-to-head with OpenAI, which was until then the most leading model, a model company, LLM company. So now we have these 2 tech giants and competing, one on open source, which could be used with governments, could be used with financial industries, and so on. Now, what is happening in the LLM market? How many players are we going to see there? I would argue that the door is closed, because you need hundreds of millions of dollars to train the current models. This shows you a snapshot that's already from 2023, and I can say here, GPT-4 was close to $100 million to train, and Gemini Ultra was close to $200 million to train. So the number of companies that have this amount of capital is running out. Even companies that were in the game are now exiting the game. So we need to understand the cost and the capital expenditure that these companies have. This influences every move they make, and I hope that during this lecture you'll understand how you can utilize it to your benefit. Speaking of the company I work for Microsoft. So we have a very talented, I would say, product strategist as a CEO, Satya Nadella. And he went ahead and he gambled. He invested seed money in OpenAI, but he also became a development partner of Meta. And so he's now strong on both proprietary closed source and open source. So he's got his chips everywhere. Speaking of Google, Google is threatened by search moving into AI. Okay? And we know that OpenAI is going into search. So Google is becoming threatened from multiple directions. If we think again about Satya Nadella, what he did, and of course I will present a lot of Microsoft today, because that's where I come from. If you think about what he's benefiting from it, any user that goes to OpenAI to do search is running on Microsoft, okay? Because Microsoft is powering OpenAI. So he's benefiting from that market share. Secondly, if we think about Google, now they are an LLM company. Microsoft is not an LLM company. They're saying we're an AI development platform. So Google needs to return all these investments of training models, hundreds of millions of dollars per model, and additional costs that we'll see in a second. But let's not forget, Google knows about all of us more than we know about ourselves. They're a strong consumer company. We will see them in consumer AI offering very, very strong things. And of course, Gemini is a very strong model. I was talking about other costs that LLM companies have. We thought until now that they have a free meal, that they can train their data as much as they want, wherever they want, but that's not the case anymore. We see here Google paying Reddit $60 million a year to scrape their content. And the number one VC in the world, led by Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen, he says this is a market of hundreds of billions of dollars. So again, if you're an LLM company, not only do you need the chips and the GPUs to train, but you also need to pay for the content. So that is news. Okay? Some would argue that we've finished scraping all of the content in the world, but there's always new ones. So who's happy about all this, all the wars between the model companies? This guy, he's the UN. He sits there, he's like Switzerland, he doesn't pick a side. And he says, I'm going to invest my money in giving capacity to clients, not in training models. I don't care who wins the war of models. I'm, best of breed. Come to me as a customer and choose whatever you want. So that makes him basically indifferent. And again, he sees himself as a development platform for the new age of AI. Moving ahead, if we look at the geographical dispersion of models, so we see that the US is leading dominantly, followed by China and then Europe. And this is just a basic follow the money. If we look at where the investments were, US is raising more than 15 times than Europe and Israel combined. Europe and Israel are AI bases. So this is what's happening. I think Europe models will be more focused about data privacy, as it tends to be the case, and the American models, let's see about that, remains to be seen, but I think we know the answer. Another thing that's interesting, whenever there's a big hype, and AI, I think, is the biggest hype I've witnessed in my lifetime, there's the hype cycle for emerging technologies. So you see that, this is from Gartner, of course, you see the peak of inflated expectations. I think we just passed that. And then you go down to the valley of disillusionment, okay? And I think right now, a lot of people are asking themselves, what's in it for me? What is this hype? I don't feel it. Show me the magic. I don't get it. So anyone who's invested in AI is at risk because of this graph. This is happening. I can feel it in the field. If we look at the time frame that Gartner is seeing for the opportunity to come to a plateau, it's 2 to 5 years. Let's see, but this next year will be about the ROI and the outcome and what's in it for me, the user, from AI. So we need to focus there. I'll talk about that as we move ahead. So I'm going to give you just an interim summary of what we've seen. One, we see Microsoft and Meta with a huge GPU capacity. We see that Microsoft is making a transition to be an AI development platform. We see Google becoming a model company, a search company, of course, but a model company. We understand that software vendors are the first to be hit. So immediately they have a necessity to create an AI product portfolio. Otherwise, they get hit in Wall Street. And of course, the enterprises are, they want you to show them the money. Okay, so they want to cash the check. What this means is there's a lot of opportunity in the market. There are a lot of companies struggling by how fast this is advancing and how slow they are responding. So for any of you with your roles, whether you're an enterprise IT or an entrepreneur, this is an opportunity. I would argue that the opportunity now is becoming an AI platform enabler. And if you look at the last line, this is a series of topics. If I was an entrepreneur now, I would go and examine each of these topics and see how I can change the AI ecosystem in general. I'll give you 4 examples in a minute of 4 companies that did it, are already getting a lot of traction from us. So this is the opportunity at the bottom for the entrepreneurs in the room. What's next in the market? So, to cover everything that's happening in the AI market and with this wide audience, my goal is just to reach alignment that we all understand the same of where we've been and where we are right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show where we've been like 12 to 18 months ago and where we are now. So, a year ago, we were speaking about the fact that we're going to reach 1 trillion parameters in LLM. Okay, and that was like a huge shock. But already for 6 months or more, we've had GPT-4.0 approach 2 trillion parameters. So clearly, that game is expanding. And if we look at how fast this is moving, this is the fastest we've experienced as humanity, right? So this is why this is equivalent to the invention of the internet. This is advancing 4 times in a year, right? Every 6 months, we double our AI capabilities. By the time you and I speak about a use case, it's almost already old. By the time it's deployed, it's old. So what that means to the architects in the room, we need a forward-thinking, a future-ready architecture to be able to take that. If we look at where the costs are, it's even more incredible because there are so many advancements, not only in hardware, but also in software. So we see here that the cost in 14 months has gone down by, to 1/12, and the performance went up 6 times. So basically, for $1 that I paid in March 23, and I get 70 times more in May 2024. This is incredible. This is something that puts all of us in a future shock because it's become so commoditized. And so, again, this is an opportunity. So when I make these lectures, people ask me, so what's the future? And I go, here's the product roadmap. It's just going to keep going up. So more and more parameters. There's nothing to talk about. I had an opportunity to ask Sam Altman, where's it going? He said, I have no clue. I asked him, okay, how do you cope with it? He said, I have a daily feedback cycle, meaning he monitors daily what adding AI parameters did to AI capabilities. And then within a week, 2 weeks, a month, he's able to conclude where this is going. So just so I understand the pace of the people who are driving this innovation. But my point to you as the entire audience, let's understand that we need to move away from the discussion of which model are we going to use. Whatever model you're going to use, it's already old, okay? I'm not saying let go of it. I'm saying just understand that tomorrow you might need to use a different model, or you might need to use multiple models to achieve whatever business function you're trying to achieve. And if at the end of every sentence, there's Elon Musk. Elon Musk is waiting for you at the end of this journey with a chip, a Neuralink that would make all of us robots that Elon Musk controls. So that's another company to look at. They're working on a brain-computer interface, and they're making great advancements. They're looking for volunteers if you want, so give them a call. Again, let's go back 12 months. So 12 months or 18 months ago, we were presented with this. We said, now we can speak to computers in natural language, and it's a chat interface. Most of humanity got stuck here, okay? In fact, if we look now, with the addition of these parameters, first of all, the interfaces that you see on the left, it's no longer just chat. This can watch you and understand what you're doing. You can add pictures, you can record yourself, so it's available in all ways, and it's got the memory and context engine that is expanding and expanding. It wasn't impressive in GPT-4, now it's becoming more and more impressive. 12 months ago, or 18 months ago, Microsoft came and said, here's how I'm going to conquer AI in the business world. And they presented the concept of co-pilots. They said, we're not putting AI in the pilot seat, we're putting AI in the co-pilot seat. You are the pilot, and AI is the co-pilot, and basically it applied it to its entire product portfolio. So now I can speak to my database, I can go to Fabric and ask him, can you forecast my end of quarter profit with 3 models? He says yes, and I get the answer. I can speak to my database, I can speak to my cloud. Incredible advancement. 18 months later, I'm happy to say that this has been an off-the-shelf offering that's very framed and does what it says on the box and has been installed in tens of thousands of organizations worldwide. And this is really what's AI now in the business world. This is how users translate AI to reality. So as opposed to a year ago, where we spoke only about Microsoft Copilots, today we're speaking about the entry of Microsoft into the Copilot Plus PC, and that represents a new war in hardware on your laptops. So literally, Satya Nadella is standing on stage and saying, I'm going to fight Apple with their MacBooks, and I'm going to have an AI-ready laptop for all of you. And later, he presents the Copilot stack, which we'll review in a second. So this is where we are today. First of all, the Copilot Plus PC, it's the fastest PC for Windows ever. And again, this is opening a new set of opportunities with desktop search, with security, chip to cloud, as they call it, a lot of opportunities. It's going to have just a button where you click the AI and it services you. You just speak to your system in natural language and take it forward from there. So this is going to dominate the war between Apple and Microsoft. Okay? And I'm sure that we'll see everyone who doesn't have a skin in the game, like Dell and other vendors, Lenovo, they're squandering to get here as well. Of course, you see that we spoke about Nvidia. Look at who Microsoft is partnering with. Nvidia is not on the list. And this is what's one of the things that's keeping the Nvidia CEO up at night. AMD, Intel, Qualcomm. Intel is planning their comeback with this. Okay? Next, so I'm going to talk about the approach. Now I'm going to really focus on Microsoft. And if I move fast, just view this episode as a teaser for you to check on Google certain things, okay? But I'm going to try and give you a glance at what approach my company is taking, which is basically saying an open approach. As some of you may remember, people my age in the room, Microsoft used to be a closed garden 11 years ago. It was a tiny company that's worth $300 billion. When they opened, I'm joking, when they opened the garden to be an open garden and really play on all the clouds, on all the platforms, it became what it is today, a $3.3 trillion company. So they grew 11 times by opening up. So today they're embracing opening up the entire tech stack. What does that mean? First thing is they're voting yes on Windows. They're saying, come and develop AI on Windows. So Windows Copilot runtime, each of us can access, and it's giving us a selection of applications, a Copilot library, AI frameworks, developer tool chains that we can use. So that's something, one element in the stack. Going back a year ago, speaking of models, Microsoft came to the world and introduced OpenAI, which wasn't so known, and said, this is the company we're partnering with, this is how we're going to do AI, we're going to use text and code and images. If we look at where we are today, we have a supermarket. Come, choose whatever you want. You'll notice that the Microsoft logo is barely on the slide, okay? Because what did we say? We said Microsoft is not an LLM company. They're outside of that game. There is, however, one place where they are, and that is fee models. Who knows what these models are? Yes, An SLM, okay, but I wanted an answer. Anyways, so we'll talk about SLMs in a second. All these models, not all these models, but gradually these models are available as services, and really some interesting options in models. We'll talk about it in a second. And then we speak about the Copilot stack, okay? We start from the bottom. Obviously, this is the place we already touched upon. So imagine that the cloud providers today give you supercomputers. If you're a global player, you have regions in every location, from Hong Kong to almost Saudi Arabia. Europe is packed with data centers, and of course the US and the Americas. The underlying is Nvidia, AMD, and Microsoft are trying to balance it with Nvidia. So Nvidia is staying on top of it, but Nvidia is now 2 years ahead of the market on the hardware side. If we go up one level, the foundation models, we weren't so experienced with them a year ago. Now 70,000 plus organizations are using them. So that's a lot of testing, that's a lot of data, that's a lot of input to the open source ones. And still we see that OpenAI is leading, but it's being challenged, as you understand, by Llama and by other models. If we look at it, Azure OpenAI Service basically takes OpenAI and says, I'm going to make it enterprise ready. Security, SLAs, availability, compute, dedicated servers, everything regulated, it's enterprise ready. But Microsoft also loves open source. So if you want open source, go ahead and use it. And what we mentioned earlier, SLMs, small language models. That's what the S stands for those of you who don't know the term. So not a large language model that costs me a lot of money, but a small language model like Phi-3. What's nice about this model is when I ask it a question, it doesn't need to reach out to a database because it uses much fewer parameters. It can work locally on my watch, on my mobile phone, on my PC. And so this changes the game. And if you ask me, what's keeping the Nvidia CEO up at night, it's this, because we won't need, if this is good enough for us, we won't need so many GPUs going forward. And if you look at Phi-3, if you look at the number of parameters, we spoke about the LLMs using over 2 trillion parameters and costing hundreds of millions of dollars to train. This is barely using a few billion parameters. And I know there are some SLM members in the room who are going to be up on these slides. And what's interesting about this opportunity, if I'm a business user and I'm asking what's in this chart, can you analyze it for me? The SLM analyzes it for me, and I don't need an LLM for this. Why the whole hoo-ha about LLM? I don't need it, right? So if you ask now an average CEO for what do they need AI for, I almost guarantee you don't need an LLM for it. Almost, not in all use cases. So that's an interesting development and might indicate something about the future. Now we're in the data conference, so we should speak about data. Data, in my view, hasn't advanced a lot. I think it's kind of running in neutral. And if you look at what's happening now, if you are a CIO in the world, you see on the left that they tell you data and AI will add 13 trillion to the economy and such a big promise. And instead, you're stuck with siloed data that is fragmented. And when you come to examine your data landscape, congratulations. There's an Excel in Department X that you haven't reached, and it's being used for a very important business process. So if you're a CIO, this is how your life looks like. In order to solve that, we've come up with what we call the Intelligent Data Platform. That is, as I said, open garden. It's using third-party tools like Databricks, like Snowflake, like Mongo, Oracle, Redis. They're all a part of this. And anyone taking part in the data industry, data engineers, data scientists, developers, can use these functions. And in the lead, there's Microsoft Fabric, which is being built as the AI abstraction layer for data. So it can work across clouds, across on-prem. Doesn't matter how your environment looks like, who you are, the size of your organization. Microsoft Fabric can attach to it, even if you're working with Google, with Amazon, on-prem. It can really be the abstraction layer that's on top of things. It's currently being used by more than 11,000 organizations. This is something I couldn't say a year ago, but there's been a very fast adoption. Those 70,000 organizations that are using AI, 1/6 of them are using Fabric. And when we look into this, there's an AI. If you think about this, the developers in the room, the interface is becoming so much drag and drop, so much clicking, and not writing code, that it's a new age for data. It also includes operational databases, by the way, and things that we couldn't dream of a few years ago. Like we were talking about big data analytics in this convention, in this conference. Now we have real-time intelligence on top of Microsoft Fabric, real-time. And that's like, I don't want to say a commodity, it costs money, but it's been democratized, it's available for everyone. It's killing the data industry as we knew it in many ways, in terms of the analytics of it. But I think still the heavy lifting is reaching the data and connecting to it. And we spoke about an open platform, and we're going up the tech stack. We see that also here, it's open. Entrepreneurs in the room, you can make a lot of money just connecting to this. This is like a big carrier. It's got a lot of enterprises on it. The list is continuously growing. You can make your offering in the development kit and add it here. AI search is part of every AI, not every, but most AI deployments. The cost has gone down of search by 40% across cloud vendors because it's part of everything. So that's for you to use. And something new for those of you who are interested in the database layers, SQL Server 2025, which has just been announced yesterday, is coming out AI ready. So I'm going through a lot of kind of the tech stack, but you'll find it from Microsoft, you'll find it from other cloud vendors and other players in the industry. A key consideration in AI implementations is the fact that, as I said, I can't get, let's say, I can't get married or attached to a model because maybe tomorrow I'll need several ones or a different one. So AI orchestration is where I need to think, how do I make my implementation, my AI implementation future-proof? And in order to do that, and first of all, just to give you some stats, 80% of what we see already of the early AI projects, the people who jumped first to the pond, are already failing. They are having complexity. I'll explain in a minute why that complexity exists. But what we've introduced is an abstraction layer, which was really, we got the inspiration to this from our customers who said, we need an abstraction layer that will take all of the work we're doing in AI, keep it as we switch models. Okay, that is a future-ready architecture. And this is where we have the model catalog, we have the ability to evaluate and customize, we have the popular development tools like Visual Studio, GitHub, etc. And really, if we look at what it does, it touches upon the data integration, it touches upon responsible AI and what we do on that space, it touches on prompt engineering. Every work that we do, if I do it with the model company, I will have to redo it. This will be like upgrading from Android to iOS, right? Instead, I'm putting an abstraction layer on top of the model. I'm doing all of the work that I can on AI here at this level, and then I can just switch the models beneath it. Okay, so this is a key AI consideration. And of course, again, I think you'll see that the interface is making AI more of a commodity to business analysts, business users, and not necessarily only programmers. You can really click the options, and it's guiding you through the decision-making that you need to make in AI implementations. So that's called Azure AI Foundry. And what's interesting, when they present their model catalog, you see something new here. They have task models, models just for language. So for example, the Greek government spoke to us a month ago. They're building a language for Greek, okay? Others are building a language for document intelligence. So that's a task-oriented model. And industry models, which is something that we try to encourage, and we already have some early success. We'll speak about it in a second. And I spoke about what's the opportunity for people in the room, entrepreneurs in the room or wannabe entrepreneurs. Where do you go? And I spoke about AI platform enablers. I want to give you an example of 4 companies, young companies, who are now major Microsoft partners. We put them in the center in Azure AI Foundry. Those are AI platform enablers, right? Weights and biases helps on model fine-tuning, scale, more or less the same. Gretel helps with data prep, data pipelines, and StatSig with experimenting and optimizing between models. If you remember one of the summary slide of the first section, this is where the opportunity is. If I go now and I build a startup that's using AI, I don't have the same level of opportunity. Many people can create those startups. This is where I think that Serbian startups should focus and go to. Another thing that I started speaking about is the industry-specific models. Let's say that you belong to a particular industry. You can today come to Microsoft and say, I want to build a model with you. And that's called Co-Innovate with Microsoft. And this was announced 6 months ago, and by now we're seeing agriculture companies, pharma companies, construction companies come to us and say, we want to build a model for all construction companies to use. And this is a trend that's happening, again, an open door, an opportunity to innovate. We are going up the tech stack and getting to the developers. I know it's heavy, but it's a big company. So we have the most loved development tools, Visual Studio, GitHub, and the new one, Copilot Studio, where you can take the Copilot and cater it to your needs. But we'll start with GitHub. GitHub has become the de facto place for open source. So we have more than 4.5 billion code commits per year, right? So this is obviously the Wikipedia of the code. We have more than 100 million developers, and it's used by most companies today. And if we look at the stats of what it's done, so more than 70,000 organizations use it, and we see that the code quality confidence has risen. We see that 55% of code is written faster. Think about it, open source is 80 to 90% of your code. So how much faster is an organization of 10 people using GitHub Copilot compared to an organization who doesn't use it? IT departments, startups, this is a major driver of how fast this is going. And look at how open it is. It's an open platform. You can use it for OpenAI, for Claude, which is AWS, and for Gemini, which is Google. So this is across cloud, and again, this is the approach we are taking. Open garden, open, open, open. And GitHub Copilot is really the most advanced, I think, OpenAI product on the planet. And speaking of startups, I heard people here talk about security startups. Look at what big tech is doing. They have a lot of power. This is a startup killer again. GitHub Advanced Security, and what they've been able to deliver in the past 6 months has just been made available. This is killing a lot of code security startups. So please pay attention to these nuances by big tech, because they're deploying it immediately in tens of thousands of organizations. Another thing that they can do that we couldn't do before, if I want an environment, I can go to GitHub Copilot and I ask, can you please give me an environment? And I get an environment. I can, of course, specify more than just say please. And again, we spoke about open. At every piece of the stack, you can build a startup, build Copilot extensions. We're seeing companies go here, and immediately they're made available to more than 100 million developers worldwide. So again, the opportunity is platform enablement. And lastly, something I thought I'd never see, you can speak to your cloud. So you can say, I have users that are complaining about response times. Can you check what's happening? And your cloud goes, sure, and gives you the answer and the pointers of what you need to do, including recommendations. So everything is changing, okay? Now we get to what we spoke about earlier. It's the users, right? Where they meet us. They meet us in the Copilots, which is the UI for AI. You can build your own Copilots, and you can extend them with your agents. The point we're after is we want to build what's called an agentic world, right? And agents are basically an extension of what we know as Copilots, and we've seen them hit us on the personal level, right? So I would call a Copilot a personal agent. We've seen them happen in teams, organizational agents. The business process industry, all the companies, this is tens of billions of dollars of software industries are being erased now, okay? Because an IT member can just go and build a business process, connect several components, systems, data, and cater to his management needs. So this is a major startup killer. And of course, again, I just want to assist employees with IT help desk processes. I have a template that I can come to, and with an interface, I configure it. I'm building an agent that is going to automate a task for my entire organization to use. Think of how much, this is really, I think, in the past few years, the biggest startup killer that I've seen. We have to take into consideration agents when we go ahead and build companies now. So this is driving business transformation. It's three main categories on the left: enriching the employee experience, the customer engagement, the business processes are going to be reshaped. If you think about Elon Musk and Trump and the Doge, organization that they're building, they're going for this. They're going to change the systems there. And of course, we don't know what's behind the curve. AI is advancing so fast that we don't know what's behind the curve. But in the meantime, we have Copilot Studio. You've got more than 1,400 connectors and plugins. You have AWS here, you have SAP, you have Vimeo. Some of you who may know the logos may know this better than me. It's basically open. It's open, it's democratized, and we're at an age where a big tech company is making itself the AI development platform. All this is made available to us. It's available as pay-as-you-go in a week from now, so that's a fresh announcement from today. So again, it's also not expensive to start with. There's no capital expenditure. Put it on your OpEx. This is simple. And when you build your extension, you can take the entire tech stack that we've seen, the entire investments of hundreds of billions of dollars, just build on it with your data, your apps that you might have built at home or in the organization, your workflows as your management loves them, and your automation. And again, a very vast architecture that's helping us use that. Copilot Actions was announced, so now we can say, I want to message this person to collect that information and send me a summary that's on this topic and whatever occurrence. This is Actions, this has just been introduced. All of us can use it. Look at the interface. This is an AI agent that I just configured. All of the logistics that we have in our day-to-day lives is going to change. Okay? It's going to go away, and I encourage you to look at that, as well as look into the agents in Microsoft 365. And if you remember, the companies that we saw their stock going down, Adobe, Workday, they jumped on this. They jumped on this, and they built their own agents. This is their fastest way to get to time to market, because they missed the train in advance. They're jumping on the platform and making it available. And of course, forget copilots, forget those agents. If you want to build your own agent, you've got the Azure AI Agent Service. It's available, again, in the AI Foundry. Okay? That's a lot of content that we've gone through. But I'm not done. So all of it is wrapped with security. I spoke to some people here who are in the cyberspace. And speaking of security, we are at a different game right now. Okay, so there's the opportunity and the risk in security is growing tremendously. We see that the password attacks per month have grown tenfold. We see that the cybercrime economy, it's predicted in 2024 to be twice the economy of Germany. Okay, it's predicted to reach $9.4 trillion. And threat actors are just growing, and they're growing because of these automations. They're still not using AI as an attack surface that much, but they're using automations. And this is a critical change in our lives. We should really be careful about it. What we're trying to do at Microsoft is we're committed to content safety. We introduced this 6 months ago. Since then, we've collected millions of event logs, and we're analyzing the new attack surface and how AI is bringing more risk to our lives. We're monitoring that. We have a large advantage as being the most attacked organization on the planet. And we have this initiative. If you hear Satya Nadella go on stage, that's the first thing he talks about, nothing else. He doesn't talk about AI. He talks about AI security. One of the things that he announced at Ignite is a zero-day quest. The security researchers in the room, I really recommend that you go to this web page. There's a $4 million prize if you hit the mark, because we're looking for security researchers to approach us. That's all. I want to say finally that if you are a software vendor, you have a major opportunity to now use cloud vendors. So all of this is not only available. If you build an AI application, you can put it on so-called marketplace, and you can sell it to the entire world. And when I say sell it, that means you're no longer the vendor. Your cloud vendor is the vendor. So you put it on the Microsoft Marketplace, Microsoft is the vendor. When you sell it, you don't need to meet the chief procurement officer, you don't need to meet the chief legal officer, but most importantly, most times you don't need to ask for budget from the customer, because the budget is already allocated to Microsoft. Because the way we work with our customers, we say, hey, commit to us that you will consume cloud computing from us, and then they get a discount, you're now considered cloud computing. So we can look at companies like Wiz, a cybersecurity company that's 3 to 4 years old. It's already valued at over $30 billion. More than 85% of its sales is through here. This is a new paradigm shift in the way you look at cloud vendors. Cloud vendors are your channels. Forget the fact that they have VMs, that's old news. They are your channels, they are your sellers. Last topic is about ROI. And I would invite whoever's in charge of air conditioning to turn it lower, because we're a lot of people. So what we're doing in Microsoft, we saw this graph and we said, okay, we need to get to action. So we are creating an off-the-shelf repository of all the use cases that we see repeating themselves in businesses, right? So we went ahead, we did Copilot analytics, and we understood where the ROI is. So if you're in marketing, or you're a knowledge worker, customer service, sales, whatever department you're in, legal, we came in and we said, where is the ROI and what are the use cases? And we collected them. So today, you can come to us, every organization or every system integrator or every partner who's involved with enterprises, you can come and say, here's what the marketing person typically needs, here are the use cases they need, and we have the detail behind it. What's the motivation? What's the value proposition? What are the top use cases? And for each use case, you have a drill down. You can talk about the whole business situation. How are you going to measure it in terms of business impact? Who is it important to? What are the technical capabilities you want? And all the way down to the technicalities of, by the way, there's plenty of these, right? Use cases, and in the end, the architecture that's driving this. Again, open architecture. We just say, we don't tell you who to choose, we just say how it's structured. So when you come to Microsoft, you have this. We're driving this throughout the world. It's just custom co-pilots, conversation summarizations, knowledge mining for content research. These things just repeat themselves, and that's where the money is. Now, I usually don't put so much text on the slide, but this is my last summary, and some of you might want to take a picture so that you have my speaker notes. So what we've seen is that we see the tech giants, specifically led by Microsoft, moving to being AI development companies. Microsoft is not a model company. You can come to it and consume almost all the models. Why is that? Is because all the people who tried to use AI to begin with, 80% of them failed because they went with a model company that didn't have the capabilities that were future ready. So multimodal portability is critical, and we need to have a model agnostic AI architecture. So that's the first point. Second point is we're moving from exploring AI to quickly ROIing, giving value to customers. If we don't do it this year, AI is going to be another hype. I'm not saying it's not going to advance. As you've seen, the amount of investments made guarantee that it's going to advance. But we need to see the return. That's us. We need to see the return, and that's why you have a use case-driven approach that is future-proof. Not future-proof, but future-ready. Next point, open garden. This is at least from the way we look at the market, we've grown by being an open ecosystem. So entrepreneurs, open your eyes. I've shown you the tech stack, the opportunities you have there in the data layers, in the developer layers. Use it, build companies to be platform enablers. And then the last 3 points. If you try to summarize what we've seen, this is the golden age of IT. It's back. Maybe a nightmare for some of us, maybe not. But why does IT need third-party software anymore? Much less. They need it much less. With a month of training themselves, they can build agents that are specifically catered to any new preference that their management has. This is the golden age of IT. It's back. And I think they don't get it yet. If we have IT people in the room, go for it. AI is a B2B startup killer. If you've noticed, if I needed a B2B software that automates a business process, it's gone. It's gone. I can really automate it like that, and it's just getting easier with every day that passes. And of course, in an age where each one of us, I think we're going to come to a situation where we can say, I want to build an app that does this or that. I will have an A4 that will specify it, and the app will be built. I think we're almost there. This is not science fiction. I think we're a year away maybe from it being commoditized. What happens in an era like that? We're all going to build apps. We're all going to build agents. how are we going to win? How are we going to make business? And this is also my point to, in general, to all the Serbian people that I meet. I meet a lot of engineers. Engineering is key. You're going to be able to do a lot more than you've ever imagined. Nothing's going to happen to your profession. It's going to stay there. But your ability to win and defining a win is by knowing how to go to market. And I think in general, when I look at this country, you have an amazing potential to grow your GDP. I see amazing engineers here, but we need to start climbing up the curve of understanding go-to-market and business development and marketing and sales. These are almost sciences, okay? And that's my last note to you. I want to thank you for sitting in this heat. Thank you. And I'll open it up for questions. In the meantime, I know that you're a big crowd, so if you want to reach out, you can use the QR code and reach out to me. Opening it up for any questions, please.
Do we have one or two questions for Mr.
So
Engel?
clear.
Or everybody's going to reach you the other way.
Yeah, it was a clear lecture. They understood everything.
Very much. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Engel, this is also for you. It's a small token of appreciation for your participation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ido Engel, once again.
Thank you.